Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's RegK Live, focusing on service teams and AI agents, and specifically Agentforce use cases and a little bit of a demo for you as well. I'm Tom Jeans. I'm thrilled to guide you through today's insightful webinar. We're here to explore Salesforce's Agentforce and how it's revolutionizing customer service by integrating those AI agents into those service teams. So without further ado, let me introduce you to who is presenting today. So firstly, again, I'll introduce myself. My name is Tom Jeans. I'm head of sales here at RegK. I've been working within the CRM field for nearly a decade now. And I've seen multiple ways companies have been trying to bring AI into their digital ecosystem. Some more successfully than others, it has to be said. But today I'm hoping to share with you some of the best practice that we have seen over that time with you all. And I'm also joined today, thankfully, by an expert within this field in my colleague, Diego. Diego, do you want to just introduce yourself to everybody?
Hey Tom, how are you doing? Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Diego. I'm a project leader at RegK. As Tom said, we work with different technologies here in the house, and as Tom said, what we try to do is try to make use cases work for our clients and try to bring always the best solution. And I'm very thrilled to actually be speaking about Agentforce today, which is all the rage as of today.
Absolutely. And just a quick overview of who we are at RegK. For those of you that aren't aware of who we are, we're a Salesforce and customer experience CRM consultancy, and we've been partnered with Salesforce for over 5 years now. And have 20 years experience, amazingly, within the CRM space, which makes us sort of veterans within the CRM consultancy field. As part of that, as you can imagine, we've delivered a large number of customer experience CRM projects, nearly 500 now across EMEA. And we do have a particular specialism now in helping organizations optimize their customer service operations. A little bit more on RegK a little bit later on. So let's move on to the next slide. Which is quite an important one. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but just because we are here representing information from Salesforce, we have to just share this with you to let you know that any forward or product discussions that we are letting you know are liable to change based on the product roadmap, based on the release cycle, and based on information that Salesforce releases as it goes. Although we aren't from Salesforce, we do want to make sure you guys are aware of that. Okay, that's the legal stuff out the way, I'm pleased to say. We have an Agentforce webinar today. So some of you that would have signed up have probably looked at the agenda. We've pretty much kept it as close as possible. The key thing here is we want to give you a demonstration really to see what it looks like. But really to start off with, we want to delve into why Agentforce, why now, understanding that functionality and the advantages of that. Some of the real world use cases and demonstrating how that enhances the customer service. And then some insights into how collaborating with RegK can help you implement Agentforce effectively. And then, of course, that demo piece as well. And probably some key considerations on how to get the most out of it, whether it is via working with experts in this field as ourselves or something you're already looking at having in-house. And last but not least, we will also try and give a little bit of time at the end to questions and answers for you. So please do pop them into the comments box. We'll try to get to them at the end of it. If not, we'll certainly come back to you at the end with our answers for you. Okay, right, let's delve into the first part of this, which is why Agentforce and why now. And probably more importantly, why now? I think we need to see a little bit on that front. So AI is obviously one of the most talked about products, if you want to call it that. Concepts is probably a better way to explain it within this fast-paced digital landscape. It's thrown about quite a bit, but it does mean that customer expectations are higher than they've ever been because they're expecting AI as part of their engagement now, and they demand those instant responses, personalized interactions, and a seamless service across every touch point. So for human service agents, if we're going to call them that, meeting those demands consistently is becoming ever more difficult. Probably more because there are higher volumes of queries, and maintaining the quality across those queries is becoming, in some cases, a bit overwhelming. So part of this can be explained by teams working on a high proportion of low value and repetitive tasks, and also because we're opening up more channels for there to be available. And that's where the AI solution and Agentforce in particular becomes essential as part of that. So how has AI changed over the years, I think, is probably one of the key things we want to talk about as well as we set the scene. There's been a quick evolution. I don't think I need to tell anybody on this how quickly things have changed. But I think probably the expectations of what we're expecting from AI is one of the things I want to highlight. Not too long ago, me myself included, my brain was blown by chatbots with fixed rules, limited workflows, but it felt like I was having my career dealt with. However, it just ended up with more deflection, knowledge sharing, and meant I was doing a lot of the work myself. It did allow customers to help themselves, but it was less focused on that customer experience, and the agent experience was pretty limited as well.
Yeah.
Next stage in that evolution was co-pilots, and guided by a more personalized experience, bringing more information to the fingertips, particularly of the agents, but also the customer interaction based off of a more personalized impact. And that's where Salesforce Agentforce goes a step further. So it's not just helping those human agents; it acts as that intelligence itself. And I know in particular, Diego, you're pretty impressed by the speed of change here from the chatbot.
It just takes you away, because every day there's something new. As you said, for example, the difference between a chatbot and a co-pilot was quite acute. A chatbot was just going through some rails, but now with Agentforce, there's even a bigger gap between what we've seen in the past. Know your business. You can see it there. That's one of the key parts, and one of the things we will elaborate a bit further. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Good point to move to the next slide, I think, Diego. So AI agents in Agentforce, they don't work in silo. They work alongside those human agents. So understanding the role they must perform is a key factor as part of that. So they can escalate those complex issues, they can pass on contextual insights, and they can even co-pilot, which we did mention in the last slide is sort of a previous phase, but having a co-pilot is essential if you're utilizing the same data as well. And it can offer that hybrid model of support both to the agent and also to the customer as well. And then Agentforce agents have that native access to Salesforce's fantastic Customer 360 platform. So that allows them to operate with the full visibility into that customer context and the history. And we'll see an example of that in our demo later on, definitely. And this connectivity does ensure that the decisions are relevant, personalized, and impactful. Also, each agent is designed to action specific use cases or functions. So being specified in their role means that they can be more useful as an agent as well. They mean that they're highly focused, they're effective, and they're working across the channels that they're more focused on. But they can also work on the channel that the customer wants to work on as well, which is also an important facet of that customer experience. And then lastly, I know Diego, you wanted to highlight this as well, but lastly, I want to mention how it's all built with that Salesforce Einstein trust layer. And certainly it's not last but least, it's very much an important piece. So it ensures every action taken by an AI agent is governable, auditable, and secure as well.
This is absolutely important, because one of the things some clients really don't understand is, okay, what's going to happen with my data? Salesforce, from day zero, before even AI was on the table, they said your data is not our business. We do different stuff. We do engineering. We do software. And that trust layer will it allows you so that none of your data gets leaked into LLM. I know there's several cases there. They've been quite famous where some companies were using public accessible, like ChatGPT. Everything you put in there is going to be integrate into the model sooner or later, but not with Salesforce, because this gets filtered out and then it comes back so that it can interpret the query, but without leaking anything to the outside model.
100%, and we'll certainly talk about the guardrails as we go forward. It's a very good point to make, and I should also say that it means it's therefore enterprise ready as a solution and scalable for enterprise too, because of that trust layer.
Absolutely.
Now, today we are focusing on service agents, it has to be said, but speaking of speed of change, there is absolutely a force behind Agentforce at Salesforce at the moment in terms of the alternative use cases that there are. So we are focusing on one of those at the moment, but it's important to note that the AI agents can autonomously complete tasks like resolving cases, updating customer records, initiating workflows without any human or very little human input at all. And that's why it's applicable on service, sales, marketing, commerce. And in fact, I think we also now have a new solution, Diego, hot off the press.
Yeah. So these you can see are out of the box, let's say, agents pre-built with normal functionalities that you would expect from an agent for each one of these areas. We had the opportunity yesterday. We went to a Salesforce event, and I think there's 3 new. There's each day there's something new because it's so easy and scalable, and AI helps turbocharging this. So every day Salesforce is actually launching some easy to implement, but at the same time you can tweak them. These 4 are the main ones, let's say, and the one we're going to focus today is going to be service specifically.
Absolutely. And in that case, let's delve in to the service use case then for Agentforce, which is essentially a new team member, really, in the case of the service use case.
Yeah. So normally when you talk about service agent, the 3 things you have to bear in mind where this really comes to life is 3 main pillars. What Tom said at the beginning is normally the teams, service teams are currently smacked with work, and most of the work is not work that is really applying any value. And at the same time, you need to improve the customer experience. As Tom also said, customers expect more. They want 24/7 availability. They want exact answers. Sometimes if you're from a younger generation, you really don't want to speak with no one. You just want to, fetch self-service yourself. So improving the customer experience would be one of the main focus any company should look at, when implementing Agentforce, and especially in the service branch. The efficiency is another thing. Maybe an agent has 100 different requests a day, and maybe 40% of those are just remind me my password, something like that, which is very little value as to what a human can really resolve. And at the same time, if you liberate those 40% of requests are not really applying value to anything, you can drive growth, which really means, hey, maybe the service team can focus on upselling. Maybe they can focus on improvement on any of the knowledge base articles, which is going to also help the agent in, as we'll see in a minute. So it's very important that when you implement in a service agent, you try to drive these 3 pillars and actually track on how good all of these can get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to add to what you said in terms of freeing up time, a lot of the times we've had this conversation with customers that work within financial services, which, and I'm generalizing here massively, has a heavy element of human-to-human interaction with it because there's a trust element to most of the interactions. But how can we reduce those, exactly as you said, those more manual tasks that don't necessarily require expertise, legal expertise in some cases, and certainly financial expertise? And how can we enhance and create more information for the service agents to be able to deliver quicker, more personalized answers as well? So Agentforce isn't just limited to deflection and taking away those easier ones. It can also enhance the experience for the customer who's probably got a more complex issue as well.
Absolutely.
What about speed? Yeah.
Okay, so when you think about a service agent, the main 4 things that it can bring and it can add a lot of value is availability, of course, is the first one, as you can see there. As I said, it doesn't eat, it doesn't sleep, it's 24/7, and it can be anywhere inside your organization. The next thing is it's grounded on data that you generate for your organization. This can be a knowledge base, this can be articles you have hosted somewhere, this can be your own data. So it's very accurate. You can access information very quickly and resolve cases without human intervention. At the same time, if any of you have used technologies like ChatGPT, it's very adaptable. It's not a bot anymore, as we were saying. You can pivot from one theme to another. We'll see on the demo how you can pivot, for example, from asking information about a product to actually asking him if he can send you a new shipping or something like that. And it can pivot very easily. It's not bound by the rules we had on the bots. And at the same time, the guardrails, this is very important. Every time you design an agent, you'll always have to bear in mind this is a very large model. It can go lots of places, but sometimes you don't want it to go to certain places. You need to define very clearly the limits and how smoothly you want to maybe migrate this case, or maybe position this case for a human agent, as Tom said, for example. in situations where, you know, the customer wants to actually have human intervention within the case.
And I think, just speaking on the guardrails you mentioned already, we've all heard of the bad scenarios that the large language models being released into the wider world have created. Bad news normally travels faster than good news, absolutely. But more often than not, those were scenarios where the guardrails weren't defined clearly enough, or people were able to circumnavigate them, probably because of the former. I think.
Yeah. Also, sorry, Tom. I think, I don't know if we mentioned, but Salesforce, in that trust layer, there's a toxicity filter. So it means that many of these hallucinations, you know, a lot of a buzzword there, which basically a hallucination is when a large language model, for example, gives out information that is not correct, or it's having a hallucination. It's a very good word to actually mention it. This is all managed by the trust layer inside Salesforce, and those guardrails are very well defined out of the box. Right, you won't get situations like that. Yeah.
And I think the key to that, and we'll talk about sort of rollout strategy, best way to implement a little bit later on. The key to that is for you to build trust with the tool as well. Start small, start on more easy use cases, and build out the trust and more complexity from there on in. You don't have to go all singing and dancing straight away and throw all the information at it. It's, you know, with anything, you need to build the trust to make sure that it fits your own company's perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. So regarding the custom agents, as you can see here, when we normally explain to clients what Agentforce is capable of, they always think about, you know, client-facing agents, you know, to actually reflect cases, to actually give shipping order information, stuff like that. Internal agents are even more powerful because they assist your users in actually getting stuff done quicker, more thoroughly. As you can see here, an internal agent can be created using your own information inside Salesforce, and at the same time, and it's something you will have noticed if you've worked with, you know, ChatGPT or similar, where an AI excels really is actually given a summary of loads of information. You know, it's very common for clients, for example, in education or in the financial sector, to have hundreds of records related to one single record, and sometimes you just need to have information about one, and you lose a lot of time actually looking for this information. This is where Agentforce actually really adds muscle to it, because it's very easy to search your own Salesforce, your records, and have information on those summary. It can also be used to actually enhance a bit or customize a conversation via email you're having with a client. So you can use information inside Salesforce regarding a past meeting, and it can elaborate automatically in email that is much more tailored to your client that, you know, a normal template would be, let's say. And of course, custom actions. This is, for me, where this is actually a game changer, because you can already use existing business flows in your organization and use them to leverage with Agentforce, so that you can trigger actions, flows, or business processes that are already defined inside Salesforce, very little effort, so that the agent can undertake them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way to showcase this is moving something live. So I think that's a good segue. Oh, sorry, no, we'll come to that in a second. We just have one more piece to run through.
Yeah, don't worry, Tom. We'll get to the demo.
I'm desperate to get there, Diego. I'm desperate to get there.
No, regarding the updates, it's just that this is, as we said, this is running really quick. Every day there's something new that happens to us implementing that. Suddenly we go into something we've already implemented the day before, and find a new button, a new functionality. And it comes with a lot of updates. The last ones, these are just some of them. For example, using agents via API without having to have an interface. You can just maybe, for example, from a JSON inside an API call, inject this to an agent so he can already start doing actions. Token identity verification with one-time password. This is very important to actually verify if the person you're dealing with is, or the agent is dealing with is actually the person they say it is, so that you can have an extra layer of security. Testing centers, something project leads and functional roles have been asking for a lot, because it actually turbocharges using AI to actually create the tests for your agent, so you can very easily and very quickly, without having to design these test cases and use them very quickly. Of course, data cloud, which is something Agentforce was already using in the past, but they've improved the accuracy of some libraries you can use. MuleSoft actually importing APIs for this middleware to actually create a MuleSoft catalog, which is something that it gives a lot of headaches to developers, which is something I know. And of course, more languages. At the moment, we can use, I think it's French, English, German, Spanish, and Japanese. But I think they're expanding to more languages available for each region. Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to highlight the Agentforce and Data Cloud piece there. As you mentioned, it's already well synced, but those are the two most powerful solutions that we work with Salesforce. So maximizing your efficacy with those and utilizing those as best as possible is only going to help you get a lot further with the Salesforce as a platform.
Absolutely, yeah.
So without further ado, I skipped a little bit ahead before, but now I think it's best to showcase what it looks like in action.
Yeah, so what we're seeing on the screen is, if you've ever used a Salesforce demo, we've used a Cyrus web page, we've embedded this agent here. And Andy, one of the clients, has purchased a solar panel because this company based it on a solar panel, and he sees that the panel has cracks. So he's asking, will this be able to generate energy? And what Agentforce is currently doing is it's looking inside the database, knowledge base, or wherever data cloud where we have it linked, and it's giving answers to the client regarding, hey, yeah, don't worry, it will generate energy. At the same time, Andy has some doubts about some condensation he's found in one of the panels. Looks like it's not in a very good shape, and he's asking how he could resolve this. At the same time, we're using knowledge base articles to generate the answer. So every information we give Andy on this chat will be based on our internal knowledge base, not on generic answers you can find, for example, in other solutions like ChatGPT or whatever. All of this is contained inside the Salesforce organization and will be prompted. So you can see it's given them some recommendations regarding humidity, solutions, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But now Andy pivots a bit, and what Andy wants to know about is batteries. We had a very big blackout in Spain a couple of days ago, so yeah, he wants to make sure that lights are not going to go out. So he wants to maybe complete the panel setup with some batteries to actually store some energy. So it's asking the agent, like, okay, what options do you have? If you can understand what's going on in the conversation right now, what the Agentforce is currently doing is it's given a selling opportunity. It's prompting the client to, hey, we have these two available options, which is a very long text. And again, nobody has time for this. Andy is a very busy man, and he's got a very small house on the countryside, and he wants to make the best decision for what he thinks his house can maybe need. So he's asking the bot, hey, okay, I maybe needed to 25 kilowatt one. And then he wants to know, what the shipping would be. Let's give it a minute. There you go. Yeah, so the Agentforce's answer is, okay, with 24, the system will ensure that it's reliable, you will have energy alongside with the panels. So Andy makes a decision and says, okay, if I order this now, how would the shipping be to London? How many days is this going to take? And again, this is based on real-time information we have in Salesforce. If the shipping time has been maybe a bit, if it's more days than expected, Agentforce can access this information based on what's currently going on in our system and say, in this case, I think the reply it's going to give it, I think it's 12, up to 12 and 15 days. So let's give it a minute.
I think in particular, obviously, we're talking about something that's, previously this would have been workflows of if, but, when, or if, then, when.
You have to
here is information based on the data already inside the Salesforce platform, data cloud, as you said, or knowledge base as well. So it's all contextual, personalized to him in particular.
Absolutely, yeah. So right now the bot is telling them there. I think the estimated time was 12, 15 days for London. And Andy makes a decision, and what he wants is he wants to order the battery. Again, one of the things we mentioned is clients might want to speak, with an Agentforce or a bot when it's just generic information. But when you're trying to make a purchase, sometimes people want to speak with, humans, and they want to actually buy products and have this maybe information on the website is not what they want to give out. So what Andy's currently doing is he wants to speak with the person to discuss about purchasing this. One of the things we mentioned is that it's seamless with Agentforce to transfer any case, any query we have to a human. So what the system is now doing, it's looking up omnichannel, which has a conglomerate of all the channels where this bot could be, and it's routing specifically this case to a human. Okay, so now we switch to the Omni console, and you can see right now here that the user has a new request. Again, it's using the standard functionality for Salesforce for omnichannel. There's no changes here. And he has the full conversation. He has background on what Andy has been speaking with this agent for, the service agents. And now he's looking up what they spoke about. It's being transferred. And now I think it's Jorge, one of our colleagues who was impersonating this. He's going to rise and say, hey, Andy, hi, I'm Jorge. What do you need help with? And again, from here on, same window, Salesforce, inside the same ecosystem. You can have a conversation that is guided by a bot, upselled, work done, transferred into a human person who's going to actually manage this on the side. Yeah. And as you can see right now, yeah, he's going to answer and the answer is going to pop up on the screen. Yeah.
So, I mean, what we've shown here is I guess one use case that could be taken both ways. It's a service use case that's transferred into a sales use case. So we've upsold him without a human needing to do that, and then we transfer him over to somebody who's able to then follow through with that activity. But we've also managed to deal with a service inquiry without needing to step in at the very early stage when it could have been dealt with a lot earlier with contextual information. And I think the key point you mentioned as well, Diego, is that contextual workspace, because they're not moving amongst different products. And also, I'm going to be very simplistic in my definition here, but it's important that we note the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. A lot of people we speak to, a lot of customers we speak to, believe they have omni-channel customer service, but actually what they have is a couple of channels that are connected, and they're using other channels elsewhere. That information is being stored elsewhere in a different data lake, in a different database, potentially even offsite completely. Omnichannel obviously brings that all together and helps with that contextual workflow. And I think that's the key part here, is that you can bring all of that data and all of those channels together, so that you can not only give them the right information, but in the channel that they're looking to be contacted in. But I think that's probably a key point to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Omnichannel helps, with these type of teams that work on a lot of channels to actually have them all in the same place. And you get this 360 view of the client, all the contact points he's had with you. And that's very important when you're selling, to be honest, and when you're dealing with complex service cases where there can be different ways where the client might be contacting you. Yeah,
absolutely. And they might be, like you said, a complex one where there's an extensive use case. It might take a couple of weeks to go and find information from elsewhere, to speak to other providers to be able to solve the solution as well. If you can then continue on the channel of their choice, if they decide, actually, I prefer to be talking via WhatsApp, you can also have a different conversation via WhatsApp. So it's much easier for them rather than via email, or however they want to continue that conversation on.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's it in action. But I think what we want to really cover now is some key things you need to think about when you're implementing Agentforce. As simple as it may be, it's worth thinking about things that can affect how useful it is as a tool for you straight away.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here is something they call, Salesforce calls agentic maturity. And that's a big word for actually something that it's quite not simple, but normal, which is you need to start, analyzing your organization and what status you're in to actually grow the complexity based on the agents or in any type of artificial intelligence. You can see there's a level 0, which would be chatbots and co-pilots. And then level 1 would be just information retrieval agents, this custom agents that we've shown. You assist humans by recommending actions inside the CRM or inside their own console. And that way you can get done work really fast. You can get out, simple cases out of the way. The second one would include some orchestrating via MuleSoft or any type of middleware, which is a simple orchestration with a single domain. You increment the complexity of the tasks, but you're still in a very silent environment. Level 3 would be very complex orchestration, with multiple domains. And that way you can leverage all the data you have in your organization in a way that it's harmonized. So when changes happen in maybe one place, they are, as Tom said, you can have this 360 view of everything that's going on with the client. And here's what Data Cloud maybe comes more into place to actually group all that data and have this unique profile of the client. The last one I like to call it, forget about multi-agent orchestration, it would be, machines speaking with machines. Sometimes what you can do is you can have a client be picked up by a certain agent, Agentforce, of course, and then be pinged into another, so that agent on the background starts orchestrating and doing different actions inside different stacks without any, with someone always being an agent supervision. So someone in the background is, telling everything that's going on, right? Again, this is something very complex with big words, but what it tells is really you need to really start from a stepping stone to actually achieve each one of the levels, because while Agentforce is very easy to set up, sometimes it's the hows and the do's of the project, the bits and bolts you actually connect together to make this work all at the same time.
And I think the thing to get across, you're absolutely right, but I think the thing to get across here is that thinking about getting through these stages doesn't necessarily mean going slowly. It just means going logically. And if you go logically, you will end up actually being much quicker in your customer experience design. If you go all singing or dancing straight away, and we've had this conversation with plenty of customers before, you're actually setting yourself backwards. You're probably taking a step back rather than even a slight step forward. So it does make sense to be logical about it, but it doesn't mean you need to go slowly.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So now, when we think about what tips we give clients to actually creating an agent, what I normally tell them is you need to think about an agent like you would do with a work description. You're going to create an agent that's going to work like someone, and he needs to know what he needs to do and how to do it. So the main 5 attributes of an agent, we always say it's the role, the data, actions, limits, and channels. The role is what work must he do? You're just painting up, what the agent is going to work with and what he must do. Data is very important. And this is, normally where we put the focus on, because data will tell the agent what knowledge he can have. It built up its brain. We spoke about this knowledge-based articles, data inside Data Cloud. We need to tell the agent what data he can and cannot access, which links into actions, which is the third one. Okay, what capabilities can it have? Can it create a case? Can it update, for example, an opportunity? Can it send out an email? Stuff like that. Those are all defined in the action. Limits is very important. We spoke about this. It's more important than telling it what to do. We should be telling it also where it should stop, and maybe hand it over to a human, or maybe what actions he can never do whatever they tell them to do. So that is very important. And last but not least, the channel. We just spoke about how you can use WhatsApp, how you can use, for example, an embedded chat inside a web page. Maybe it's an internal bot. So you need to bear in mind that the channel is very important in order to how this agent is going to work, because maybe some actions you could do on WhatsApp, for example, you can't do via email, or you can't do via chat, or the other way around. So with these 5 attributes, you start thinking about it and you describe what the agent is going to do.
I have a question for you based off this, Diego. I think we may cover it later on, but I thought this might be a good point to ask. It is, how much work internally do the customers normally need to do in this specific definition? Because as you mentioned before, it's sort of like a job description. So how much do they need to do based on what Agentforce can do to define this? Or is it based on, where's the definition? Based on the role that needs to be undertaken, or based on what's available in Agentforce?
So normally, I call this exercise think before you do, because normally the very basic is work on the role. Just bear in mind what you want the agent to do, and who is it going to serve at the same time. Is it going to be an external client? Is it going to be internal? Because I think on the next slides we see this very easily. The planning phase is very important, because if sometimes a very poor definition of what an agent is going to do can end up having a very bad result. There it is. Thanks, Tom. The ideate phase is normally the same size, but it's where we normally interact more with the clients, because it's very important that everyone knows what this is designed to do. Because let's face it, they're machines, and they're going to do what we tell them to do. But at the same time, the pitfall you have with large language models is that they're very wide and they have so much scope that you need to limit it. Normally we divide it into, ideate, setup, configure, test, deploy, and monitor. But these two phases, the ideate and the setup, are very important to actually see what the agent will do. You might think this is a complex process because, maybe you need a developer team, something like that. No, Salesforce, one of the things that really impressed me the first time I used it is that it's very easy with Agent Creator and Agent Builder to actually go through these phases very easily. When you set up the agent, you're given a round of topics, and you define the flows, you define the actions it can do, and it's so easy to test with the testing center. You can get, for each prompt, you get a response, a very logical response as why it failed, why it was correct, where the answer came from, what specific article the answer is coming from. Sometimes it's not the agent that is not set up properly. Sometimes the data on your foundation is messed up. So that means you need to go to the data and fix it. And sometimes it helps you to actually find this type of inconsistencies. Again, I think I ran into the configure part by mistake, but yeah, with the agent builder, again, it's very easy to configure, very easy to set up, and very important. We always tell this to client, test it thoroughly. There's a concept in AI testing called red teaming, which is quite funny, in which you gather a group of users to actually poke the AI to see where it breaks. So you need to actually interact a lot with it, because you can do all the tests you want, but this is going to be deployed on the open world if it's client facing. So anything can happen there. So you need to use those guardrails to actually keep it exactly what you want and giving correct answers, thorough and quick. Okay. Another thing that you can do with the testing is change models. I don't know if we mentioned this, but the models you have inside Salesforce are not Salesforce's models. You can connect to a lot of providers like ChatGPT, Anthropic. I think Gemini is also available. So that means you can tweak the model maybe because you want it to be quicker, the responses to be longer. So that's something you can do when you're in the testing phase and in the configure phase. And of course, last but not least, is the deploy phase, which is basically putting into production. And then you're going to see everything that's going on with the testing center and the activity logs, where you can see, questions that maybe somebody has asked, what response it gave out. And it's very important that with the testing center and the activity logs, you monitor this, because not only you want to monitor in case you need to change something, it's sometimes that your organization grows, you have new processes, and you need to incorporate these back in the setup and the configuration part. So the agent is very much alive, and I don't want to say this word, but you need to keep it alive with the latest process. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you, Diego. And we've covered a lot of ground there in a very short period of time. So I think it's worth just going back and kind of segmenting it by stages, really, the key pieces, really. So number one, set those clear goals based on the data maturity. Data is the key to everything. It's the most important piece as part of this. So define those objectives, align them with that data maturity, and then progress them from foundational use cases to the more advanced ones as your data processes evolve as well, and your utilization of the Data Cloud platform advances too. Number two, I think ensure that high quality data and context again.
Yeah,
very important. So success really does depend on rich, well-structured data. Again, build that strong knowledge base, leverage tools like Data Cloud, and that will help provide that clear context to avoid vague or generic responses, which feels like a step backwards in time, really. Back to co-pilot discussions, really, and more deflection based. We want to make it contextual and personalized as much as possible. And we've kind of highlighted it quite heavily, but define those security barriers, those guardrails, put in place those rules that define that AI behavior, and make it speak to the company voice that you have, as well as the guardrails you have as part of your business as well, legal, financial, whatever it might be. Make sure those guardrails are defined as early as possible. And kind of speaking to the first point, start small and grow from there, because your trust will grow with that solution as well. And then I think probably last but not very much not least, as Diego just mentioned, test and improve as much as possible. Make sure you're monitoring what is on there. Have somebody allocated to be monitoring this. I think you'd agree, Diego, is a key part of that as well. And make sure you're gathering the feedback both internally from your agents and also externally from customers as often as possible, because that will help you refine those processes, maximize that efficiency, and ultimately minimize the friction over that long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Focus on information input. It's very important. It's sometimes a lot of clients, the need of an agent force, or the desire to actually have an agent force, has helped them to actually improve how good the data is, because that's going to mark the difference. And with each process of a new agent force or an intelligent AI assisted agent, the clients always need to change that, and it always happens that they improve the knowledge base, they improve the data, which is always a win for everyone, not only the agent, because the better the data, the better the company's going to run. Yeah. And also, as you just said, the monitor and iterate. Yeah, the agent needs to be alive, and it needs to grow with each new change that you actually put on the table. Yeah.
And then actually, it's just a quick question before we move to the next part, Diego. Triggered a little bit by what we're saying around monitoring and iteration. In your experience working with customers, have they dedicated a team specifically for Agentforce within the use case to be able to do that? And therefore, it's a project-based team that has a kind of testing scenario within it? Or is it normally a function of somebody else's role?
It very much depends. So sometimes if the agents are focused around, for example, the custom agents that we mentioned, if it's, for example, giving information to sales reps, maybe some people from the sales rep department need to be involved in what answers it's giving, because sometimes they can tweak these answers so that they're more useful for the sales rep. At the same time, if it's a client-facing one, it's better to have a wider scope of testing and people monitoring this. Again, Salesforce has this these tools that we mentioned, where you can actually access the logs and you can actually access the testing center. So it's much easier than with other tools that we've seen. But it's a bit of column A, bit of column B. It really depends on how focused the agent are on each department. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, mate. So again, to reiterate, we've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time here, and we wanted to try and give you as much information based on our experiences as possible. But I think if you're considering Agentforce, particularly for customer service, but any of the use cases that you did see earlier, the best place to start is just get in touch with us. We're happy to have a conversation with you. Of course, no obligation at all to move forward with us, but we can give you our best experience. As we mentioned before, we've been working with Salesforce now over 5 years and have 20 years experience of consulting with multiple different organizations, many different use cases and sectors. And Agentforce is so new, it's best to get the experience of people who've been there and already delivered for customers already. So please do use the QR code on your screen now, or pop us a message on LinkedIn. Both myself and Diego are on LinkedIn as well. And we're more than happy to answer your questions, really. We've been there, seen it, done it. So just use that experience as much as you can. And you'll understand then what kind of value you'll be able to get from Agentforce as you move forward.
Absolutely.
So Diego, anything else to add from your side at all before we just go to the question and answers?
No, it's been a pleasure, Tom. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll just pause for a second just to allow any questions or answers at all. Looks like we haven't got any just come through yet. I do have one question for yourself, Diego. I don't think we kind of touched on it. Time span for delivery here, and I know that's going to be quite a dependent question, but how long does something like this, something like Agentforce for a service use case, take to really deliver value?
So it really depends, again, on the scope. If I normally make the split between client facing or internal facing.
Yeah.
Internal facing, one of these out of the box ones where it does summaries, it can update information. That's fairly easy. Only part where you need about a month is actually not a month to actually just define and scope what the agent is going to do very thoroughly. But then if it's internal and it's going to summary and update stuff, it's very easy to actually pick up where it's going, doing stuff you don't want to do or things you want to do. Client-facing ones, not that much more than a month, but at least for the first prototype with our clients in banking, for example, that have a very basic knowledge base without having to update or upsell or anything. They've had it up and running in at least 2 months, something like that. So it's quite fast if you keep it, this first level of complexity that we spoke about. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Diego. Okay, that's just looking at time, and we've already kept you guys for quite a period of time. Please do keep sharing your questions. We're more than happy to come back to you with some answers for you if need be. But thank you very much for your time.
I think there's a question. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you said one. Okay.
Okay. What could happen to the recruitment sector with recruitment services? That's a good question, actually. Recruitment normally is more, I think it's more of a human interaction thing, at least from my point of view. There's a lot of, face to face with the person you're speaking about. Actually, I do think there might be a use case here, like for example, gathering information from someone who's going to be recruited by your company. It might make the process much quicker. But in the end, again, we always say this: there is a moment where sometimes a human needs to maybe come into the equation, and maybe recruitment is one of those. I don't know, Tom, what you think.
I think the key is the volume with recruitment, and it depends which recruitment you're doing, right? A lot of it can be account-based service rather than B2C sort of customer service. But if you have a volume challenge, there's definitely a use case for Agentforce there. If it's more B2B, so it's more about building trust and relationship, and you still have a volume challenge, then Agentforce can still be a good solution for that. So it doesn't necessarily take away from that human-to-human interaction. It just enhances the amount of information you've got to make more personalized interactions as part of it. So I do see a use case there for sure, but it'll be individual to the service that each recruitment company is providing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, Diego, and your knowledge as well. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And please do share any questions you do have. Reach out to us here at Redk. We're happy to answer any questions you've got. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.